house that are full of poison. Number one, Colgate and Tom's toothpaste. This goes together because apparently Colgate owns Tom. So if you thought you were getting a healthy alternative when you purchased Tom's, joke's on you, because they're both being sued for significant amounts of lead in their toothpaste. Number two, Tampax tampons. Now, I thought that Tampax were for the girlies, but apparently they're not, because they're also full of lead.
Oh my goodness. Rich, you hear that? Oh my goodness. You telling me that every sister, because that's what sisters use. Last time I checked, they got lead up in them. Man, don't know about that. That's crazy if that's true. And believe me, I don't have her up there because, you know, she got the big old tatas. She's got information. I don't know why they throw these beautiful women at me. I don't care nothing about that for the most part.
What's up with that? Number three, candy. Rollies, gummies, nerds, and Laffy Taffy. All these candies are being sued because there are significant amounts of arsenic in them.
Man, that dude made a lot of money off that Shake That Laffy Taffy. That poison too? Damn. Look, it's a surprise that I've made it this far in my life. I made it to my 50s, eating all that stuff. Taffy was my thing. Taffy, Now or Laters, licorice. I needed that for sports. That was my thing. Had to have it. So what else is she gonna tell us?
Them. Yes, you heard me right. Arsenic, which is a toxic element, which our bodies also cannot excrete. Number four, Starbucks, because apparently Starbucks.
Uh-oh. Stop the presses. What up, Draco? Stop the presses. Starbucks? Oh, yeah, I'm about to make some calls.
Thought it would be cool to put VOCs in their coffee. VOC stands for volatile organic compounds, the same compounds that are found in paint thinners, nail polish, and nail polish remover. Doesn't that sound good? Last but not least, number five is Chobani yogurt. Chobani packages the yogurt in plastic.
Oh, shit, I got to call my mom. She got that shit in there. Yeah, I got it. Hey, that too? Okay.
Packaging, and that plastic has been leaching phthalates into the yogurt. So when you're eating the yogurt, you're also eating the phthalates. And guess what? Phthalates have been linked to cancer, infertility, and neurodevelopmental effects in our children. And nobody wants that. I found out about all five of these class action lawsuits in the Collect Settlement Finder app.
Go ahead, snapshot that. Snap it. Get it.
I love this app because it sends me notifications the moment that I'm able to apply for these settlements. So if you have any of those five products in your home, go claim your money.
It can kill you if you eat it. Or can it cure you? Cancer, herpes, HIV, HPV, tonsillitis has been proven to be cured with this plant, which is called pokeweed. Pokeweed consists of what you call pokeweed antiviral proteins, in which it utilizes a process called selective toxicity. This is a process in which a chemical compound will target microorganisms that are dangerous for the body. Yet, at the same time, it will also not cause as much damage to the other cells of the body that you need to maintain a proper health. But you have to make sure that you use it right. Therefore, you can utilize this with balancement to be able to target HIV, herpes, HPV, tumors, even tonsillitis to get infection off of the organs. A magical herb that we utilized for many years. Sure. They say that this plant can kill you.
Make sure I'm off mute.
cut on the apple, soak it in a clear glass of water. Soak it in a Make a small cut on the apple, soak it in a clear glass of water. Once tender green sprouts emerge, carefully plant it in loose, fluffy soil. Before long, you'll have a strong, healthy tree heavy with sweet, ripe apples. Grab a large plastic bottle, cut it in half. Fill the bottom with water and the top with potting mix. Tie it with twine and hang it up. Sprinkle in lettuce seeds, no frequent watering required. This hanging garden saves space and works like a charm. Soak a grape cutting in water until it grows thick, lush roots. Set up a sturdy trellis in a pot, then plant the seedling. Water regularly, and vines will climb nonstop. Soon you'll have cluster after cluster of juicy grapes, easy homegrown fruit freedom. Think outside the pot with your planting, and you'll not only max out your space, the results will blow you away. Follow me for simple ways to grow fresh, delicious fruit and veggies right at home. Make a
It's good news. Business time.
Andre Joseph,
And I'm Holly Rodriguez.
and we here to tell you about the Black Restaurant Black Farmer Coalition. It starts right here today. Talk to him, Holly.
So we want all the restaurants and farmers to tap in with us. Farmers, if we get together, we can grow big. We can feed our community. We can feed the restaurants. Let's go. If I grow spinach and you grow tomatoes, together we win.
And check this out, Black Restaurateurs. We're about to start sourcing a portion of all our produce and meats directly from Black farmers.
Yes.
It's the only thing that makes sense. Let's stop taking this money and putting it outside the community. Let's recirculate it right here with fresh product. It starts right here. We need everybody to DM us both on this post and comment. All our Black restaurateurs and all our farmers, comment on this because it's time to link up.
Let's go.
You can't spell community without unity.
Hey.
This is one of the most
What's wrong with this? I got you. Hold on a sec.
This is one of the most overlooked aspects of building, but the most important.
What's this thing doing, man? This is a good one, too.
Overlooked aspects of building. This is one of the most overlooked aspects of building, but the most important.
This thing is absolutely not wanting to play. Damn. Man, this is a good one. Let's get past it. Hold on.
Live in stone buildings and houses on the East Coast. They were made out of tabby. So tabby is an early version of concrete. It's made out of shells and different things like that the indigenous people made of our homes. If you look up tabby structures on Google, some of them are still up. They look like they're broken down and destroyed, like they were hit with Gatling guns or what are they? Cannons and different things like that. They try to do with the Olmec heads. And what led me to that is because our mounds down there, some of them are made out of shell, the same structure, the shell mounds, and then the tabby structures are the same material. So there were no Africans, and they're saying that Africans built those homes, but there were no Africans that knew how to make shell mounds. So originally we used to live in stone buildings and houses on the East Coast. They were made out of tabby. So tabby is an early version of concrete. It's made out of shells and different things like that that the indigenous people made of our homes. If you look up tabby structures on Google, some of them are still up. They look like they're broken down, destroyed, like they were hit with Gatling guns or what are they? Cannons and different things like that. They try to do with the Olmec heads. And what led me to that is because our mounds down there, some of them are made out of shell, the same structure. The shell mounds and then the tabby structures are the same material. So there were no Africans, and they're saying that Africans built those homes, but there were no Africans that knew how to make shell mounds. So originally we used to live in stone buildings and houses on the East Coast. They were made out of tabby. So tabby is an early version of concrete. It's made out of shells and different things like that that the indigenous people made of our homes. If you look up tabby structures on Google, some of them are still up. They look like they're broken down, destroyed, like they were hit with Gatling guns or what are they? Cannons and different things like that. They try to do with the Olmec heads. And what led me to that is because our mounds down there, some of them are made out of shell, the same structure. The shell mounds and then the tabby structures are the same material. So there were no Africans, and they're saying that Africans built those homes, but there were no Africans that knew how to make shell mounds. So originally we used to live in stone buildings and houses on the East Coast. They were made out of tabby. So tabby is an early version of concrete. It's made out of shells and different things like that that the indigenous people made of our homes. If you look up tabby structures on Google, some of them are still up. They look like they're broken down, destroyed, like they were hit with Gatling guns or what are they? Cannons and different things like that. They try to do with the Olmec heads.
Recently came across this book. I was out in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. This book is from 1777. America was 1 year old at the time. The name of this book is right here. It's the Universal Geographical Grammar from 1777. I'll be going through this book, making a lot of videos. There's some crazy stuff in here. I'm just going to give a quick preview of this because there's things in here like, so here's the opening map. Here's the opening map of the world. And right here, Eastern Tartary. And right here is Western Tartary. And there's China. And what we'll get into farther back is going to be Chinese Tartary also. And then over here, the lower half of America is Florida. The left side, you can see California. And the whole top is empty. And there is no Canada. So then, we'll go to the next one. This is the doctrine of the sphere. Here is the artificial sphere. Because the world was coming from being flat and going into being a globe. I recently came across this.
Part of credits. So this would be net spend, and this is the bank that net spend draws from. I want to scroll back up to the top because I want to show you this here. And here you can scroll for your state. And this is your business. And then your post office goes here. This is how much you're going to exchange. Words supersede numbers. So this would go here. And then make sure void where prohibited by law is somewhere on the document, along with an assignment and a directive of how you'll be conducting business. can see right here where net spend debit account is a deposit account established by Pathwork. Once you're done with that, they'll send a PDF to your
Yeah, I'm not playing that one. We're going to get to the other one.
Listen, guys, this can get expensive. So they quoted me $20K just to bring rock out here. This was already here. They wanted $20,000 just to bring the rock, not spread the rock, just bring the rock and pile the rock, and then we would have to spread it. Okay. Listen, one benefit of having a logging company come out and cut your trees down, if you sell your trees to your timber to the logging company, is they will build a logging road. All right. So if you go in and you buy a rural undeveloped property and you sell them.
Come on in, I got another good one for you. 53. The high courts have further decreed that warrant of jurisdiction makes all acts of judges, magistrates, U.S. Marshals, sheriffs, local police, all void and not just voidable. Nestor versus Hershey. If his allegations of jurisdictional facts are challenged by his adversary in any appropriate manner, he must support them by competent proof. McNutt versus General Motors Acceptance Court. Get the book out, Self-Law. Come on in, I got another good one for you. 53. The high courts have further decreed that warrant of jurisdiction makes all acts of judges, magistrates, U.S. Marshals, sheriffs, local police, all void and not just voidable. Nestor versus Hershey. If his allegations of jurisdictional facts are challenged by his adversary in any appropriate manner, he must support them by competent proof. McNutt versus General Motors Acceptance Court. Get the book out, Self-Law.
Yes. All right, so look, we're going to play this again. And, you know, this information is it's interesting. The warrant of jurisdiction is everything because, you know, if you're in a court and the judge is acting a certain type of way, then, you know, you can challenge the jurisdiction. Remember, I mentioned corporate juris secunda, not corporate juris secunda, but quorum non judice, meaning without a judge. So if it's without a judge, that means the court is incompetent. Right, so let's play it again.
Come on in, I got another good one for you. 53. The high courts have further decreed that warrant of jurisdiction makes all acts of judges, magistrates, U.S. Marshals, sheriffs, local police, all void and not just voidable. Nestor versus Hershey. If his allegations of jurisdictional facts are challenged by his adversary in any appropriate manner, he must support them by competent proof.
All right. So once the jurisdiction, right, or also it'll be called warrant of authority. Jurisdiction, authority, competency, they can kind of run parallel with each other. They can intersect at a certain point in time, but really they kind of run parallel depending on the situation. So, for instance, If you're dealing with a police officer, you ask them, what authority are you operating under? Or the initial is, what's, how you say it, what's the nature of your inquiry? That's another way of saying state your business. Like, why are you here? Why'd you stop me? Well, I stopped you because you got a left blinker out, or you didn't blink, or you made a half stop, or your license isn't, well, your registration isn't up to date. Something like that. Okay. Cool. Is there any emergency, or is there anything that you could provide me that shows me that I am subject to you right now? And can you provide me the authority? Well, it's under vehicle code section such. Okay, cool. How about this? Let me ask you a different way. What authority do you have to stop me? Because they want to ask the questions, but you know, first name Miranda, last name Wrights. So I can ask all the questions. I don't have to answer anything right now because you stopped me. Now, that could go in many different directions, but as long as you cool, you straight. Now, if you're dealing in court, if somebody brings a claim against you in court, knowing that they was not there, you're dealing with speculation, right? They say what? Probable cause. You got probable, and you got cause. So that means they haven't proved anything yet. So the judge at that point in time is going to go off of the probable cause, prima facie evidence, taking these people's word as if it could be true. Right? That's what I was talking about the Chevron doctrine. And like I said, I think tomorrow I'm just going to go in depth about these two things, because let me tell you, across the board, that could change the game for whatever that you're doing. Now, I mentioned it before, but lightly. If a judge looks at something, the judge and the clerk, when it gets to the clerk should look at everything and say, wait a minute, every single document must be proven. And how does it need to be proven? It needs to be proven by a verified statement, declaration, affidavit, right? You can make it verification, right? And the title must state verified claim, verified complaint. It's verified. You see what I'm saying? Then if verification come over there, if it's not saying verified at the top, it must have an affidavit or declaration on it. See, California, they played a little game. They could just go with a declaration, but if you look at the definition or the compare and contrast of what a declaration is versus an affidavit, a declaration doesn't always have to be true. A declaration does not always have to be true. A declaration can be taken as face value as well. So it's kind of like colorable in a sense, kind of quasi. An affidavit is a truth. That's why they have all these things behind it. An unrebutted affidavit is the truth in commerce. And at the same time, when you bring back a declaration, see, the courts can wiggle with that, because they already know a declaration doesn't have the same power as an affidavit, because an affidavit is say, I affirm. You got affirm in there. That's the affirmative. And it's on the penalty of perjury. There's jail time behind that. See, a declaration is just a declaration. It's like, I make this declaration that I have something, then, you know, you have the other little riffraff that goes along with it. This is why courts do not acknowledge affidavits. Well, they technically don't. Let's say California. Affidavits, they don't pay attention to it. Affidavits get in there, boy, they run it because they're held to the affidavit. You see? So this is important what he's saying. So he's saying jurisdiction, but jurisdiction covers a lot of different angles on this. Jurisdiction is equal to competency. They always put it on you as if you are trying to figure out if you're competent. But the question is on them. Are you competent? In Latin, it's called quo warranto. That means one of authority. On what authority do you have? That warranto is a warrant, which is an order as well. The writ is an order. The warranto is an order where you can secure your position in authority. You see what I'm saying? So, just to give you that much on it. All right? This is a good one. So I just wanted to clarify that for him.
Court, the first thing I tell the judge is I'm the indigenous one. And the reason why I always say that, because I'm letting him know that I own the territory. I own the territory. The United States is Great Britain's trash. You belong to Great Britain. You're Great Britain's trash. I own the fucking territory. Now that's big right there, because now you just challenging, now you flip the script and challenge his jurisdiction. That's why calling yourself indigenous is so important, because under the Indigenous Citizen Act of 1924, it clearly states that indigenous people don't need driver's license, tags, and registration to travel or drive on their own land. And if you own a business, you don't have to pay taxes on your own land. Okay, that's in IOL Convention 169. Indigenous people are exempt from taxation. You have to claim you're indigenous, and no, you don't have to go get no status change and status this and status that. No, stand on business. Stand on business. Look at your birth certificate. If your birth certificate says black, Negro, colored, African American, mulatto, or nothing, you the fucking Indian. And you let them know that the state committed fraud against you by or reclassifying you from indigenous to black to Negro to African American. Now he got problems on his hand, because under Public Law 90-284, the law clearly states that state court has zero jurisdiction on indigenous people. Well, a lot of y'all got family members in jails through state court. Now, all these lower courts is fucking illegal. Every last one of them. If you don't believe me, look up 28 USC 3002 and go to Section 2 and read what it says. These courts have to have delegation of authority to do anything, which means that before they open that court case, they got to contact Congress. Now, you ask them for the delegation of authority. This is why we turning around and suing all these judges for these bullshit. Because the shit that they didn't have no rights doing. Every last motherfucking thing they did here is fraud. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, we here. It's a whole new day. If you indigenous, stop listening to these white folks talking about they got rights to travel and they got their little right to travel pamphlets and shit like that. If you're not indigenous, you don't have any rights on this land. You cannot come on somebody's land and get the rights that they have. You cannot come on somebody else's land and talk about I got equal rights like you. First of all, you trespassing. And not only you trespassing, you a motherfucking land squatter.
Now, yeah, buddy. Look, I saw this, changed my whole presentation for the day. You know what we're about to do? It's about to be short and sweet. This is about to be short and sweet. Let me show you something to you, because he just said what I've been saying. Let me tell you what I've been saying to people, whether people want to believe it or not, right? That's the cool thing about having a fro. Things get caught up in your twines, you know what I'm saying? In your coils. Now, so what I've been saying, This is what I've been saying for a minute now. Because everybody's saying, oh, well, you know, they mentioned Patrick Devine and, you know, you have all these other people that's been given information, and it's good information. It's good information. You don't disregard them on the information. You never disregard information. You're a student for life because you got to be able to pick and pull what you need, right? That applies to you. My question was this. You know, once I got a little bit more advanced, I was like, wait a minute. You guys are acting like you guys are trying to invoke rights you don't have. Number one, you're not Indian, not tax. That's what you're not. You don't fall under those guidelines. You are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That means you are taxed. That means you are a peon and you are subject to peonage. Even when you get to the age of majority within the public law of the United States, you still must pay taxes. You still must contribute to the United States. Bingo. You see what I'm saying? Now, the other issue, and I'm gonna bring up this other one because I had these, I was gonna save these for tomorrow, but I'm gonna bring up these other ones as well. Because the trick on when I played the video of the guy that said that Congress implemented the Indian Citizenship Act and these plenary doctrines in order to, Congress did that in order to pull us in so we can help them pay taxes and all that, because at that point in time when all these pale skins were coming in, they did not have that aptitude, the mental, physical ability to do the laborious work that goes on here in America when we've been doing this forever. It's nothing. Everything that was to be done to be productive on this land, they were not capable of doing it. That's why Martin Luther King said they was getting paid not to farm. You know why? So they could bankrupt us. And they were occupying land that did not belong to them. So this right to travel, I like these codes and everything. I got them up right now, but I'm going to play a couple, I think one more. Let me pull this up real quick. Hold on just a second. I'm going to pull up this one. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Where'd it go? There it go. All right, so I'm gonna pull this up because she actually came in and she actually said something that I've been saying.
The Supreme Court just decided the birthright.
She been saying what I've been saying, which is interesting that all these things just flying up there. You see what I'm saying? I also want to show a couple messages I got after these last couple of lives I did. I was like, God, yeah, these cats it's getting a little bit aggressive. Like, wait a minute. Calm down, buddy. All right, let's pull this up.
Citizenship case, and almost no one is telling you this. The entire ruling turns on how the country treated Native Americans. I'm a Cherokee attorney. Let me explain what the court actually said. First, what the court decided, it ruled that children born in the United States to parents who are here unlawfully or temporarily are still citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment. The court rejected the executive order trying to change that. The key phrase in the Constitution is that citizens are those born here and, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The case came down to what that phrase means, and to define it, the court looked to the history of Native nations. Here's the history the court relied on. For centuries, it had been the rule that if you were born on a nation's soil, you were its citizen. That applied to almost everyone. In the United States, there were really only two exceptions: the children of foreign diplomats and Native Americans. And Native Americans were the exception for one reason. Tribes were their own sovereign nations. A person born into a tribe owed allegiance to the tribal nation, not to the United States. So under this reasoning, Native American was not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Native Americans were excluded not because of their ancestry, but because their nations were sovereign. This is why birthright citizenship never automatically applied to Native Americans like it did to everyone else. It took a separate act of Congress, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, to finally make all Native Americans citizens of the United States. This history is exactly what the court cited in its ruling. This is what I want people to understand. Native American law is not a footnote in American law. It is often the framework the entire system was built on. The most consequential ruling on citizenship in a generation was decided on the history of tribal sovereignty.
Did you guys catch that? That last part right there. It's the framework. She's saying Native American, and she has to do that because she's still a foreigner herself. And she utilizes that language. You can't utilize American Indian like the other guy did. American Indian, not Native American. This is where things started changing over time, but that Native American didn't even get applied to the indigenous people until the late, what did I say, 1988? So the framework of all United States information, I showed that, and it's interesting that this came to me because I just showed in that that Encyclopedia of American Indian Contributions to the World, when I was talking about the caucus and the League of Nations and all the other stuff, that actually that everything was framed around what the indigenous people was doing here in America. Unrivaled over a period of time. So, what are we doing here? You see, so under the circumstances, right? Under the circumstances, we need to be clear that. And when I mean be clear, we need to be clear in our communication amongst each other that what she's saying is what I've been saying. And nobody else has been saying. That everything that is being done here, what we're looking at right now, that we wowing and crying and angry about and all that shit is what we created. And what they've done is they reverse engineer it. They have reverse engineered it to our demise. So they're taking what we done, that we gave to them, that we loaned to them, that we gifted to them, so we can do proper business together, so they could do proper business on this land, and they actually over time engineered it to work against us. This is what we've been talking about. This is why I talk about this caucus, Black Caucus, Big Dog, we talk about Black Caucus, is that these group of people in this Black Caucus, right? Because we see that in the encyclopedia that there's a caucus in there, in that encyclopedia, there's a word caucus in there. And it says that political things that are done in closed doors. Now, the question is, what are these people doing behind closed doors? Because if they're going up under the title Black Caucus, we know that caucus has its origin here in America amongst American Indians, but they got black in front of it. So if it's black, what does that mean? Is it a dead caucus? Is it a blank caucus? Is it a bleak caucus? Is it a caucus with no life, no color, no nothing, that is pretty much being done in the background in order to switch the issue? So who is doing the misclassification, reclassification? Just think about that. Now, also think about these last ones I did, because those last three that I did, they're talking about jurisdiction here. They're talking about one of authority. So if that's the case, then we got to understand, wait a minute. You got people that look like me that's arguing with me about the law that we created, the law we established and made them abide by through treaty and through the Constitution. It's spelled out unless that encyclopedia is fake. And amongst the other things that I show is fake. So if all this is fake, then hey, we might as well go back to being Pan-African. Because the census is saying that Africa has started everything. It's back to Africa. America was desolate. All right. So let's listen to her again.
The Supreme Court just decided the birthright citizenship case, and almost no one is telling you this. The entire ruling turns on how the country treated Native Americans. I'm a Cherokee attorney. Let me explain what the court actually said.
Okay. She's saying that the Supreme Court turned on Native American history. Now, my position on it is, how do they do that? They acknowledged, I played the arguments, the oral arguments. They acknowledged that quote unquote Native American, well, they were saying American Indians were not subject to the jurisdiction, right? Not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Flat out, period. So if that's the case, then how do they turn on it? They acknowledge that. You see, but there's been plenty of videos that I showed that Congress, through these acts or these plenary doctrines, incorporated us by declaration into the United States in a way that we still haven't fully comprehended. And the Supreme Court signed off on it. Now, we haven't got to that point yet. What was the reason? Now, I didn't already put mine out there. Nobody want to talk about it. I'm getting little messages or whatever. And really what I want is I want some of these so-called Aboriginal Indigenous Indians to come up here and talk to me about it, because they're not talking about it. I want some Pan-Africans. I want some ADOSs. I want some FBAs to come up here and talk to me. I know what it is. They think I want their attention. They think I want my numbers to go up. Oh, is that right? Oh, until then, I'm just a dummy. Okay. Well, if that's the case, stay where you at. And what I'm going to tell you is, you know different than anybody else. So you might as well go back to your Pan-African place where you was. You're not indigenous. You're not an Indian. You're not an American. You're a slave. And I'm going to keep saying that until you come talk to me.
First, what the court decided, it ruled that children born in the United States to parents who are here unlawfully or temporarily are still citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment. The court rejected the executive order trying to change that. The key phrase in the Constitution is that citizens are those born here and, quote, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The case came down to what that phrase means, and to define it, the court looked to the history of Native nations. Here's the history the court relied on. For centuries, it had been the rule that if you were born on a nation's soil, you were its citizen. That applied to almost everyone. In the United States, there were really only two exceptions: the children of foreign diplomats and Native Americans. And Native Americans were the exception for one reason. Tribes were their own sovereign nations. A person born into a tribe owed allegiance to the tribal nation, not to the United States. So under this reasoning, a Native American was not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Okay. Now, let me pause that right there and make sure I got my, hold on. I got to do my full screen. What's up, Tamula? Let me go ahead and pull my full screen up because we're going to jump around, right? I told you I got my white boy kryptonite on you. Got my white boy kryptonite on you. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go over here. Going to go to my PowerPoint presentation so we can get more white boy kryptonite on you. All right. This is what we're going to do. We're going to come back to the participation debate. Let's pull it up for a second, just for a second. Let's pull up the video. There you go. All right. All right. So let's pull it up.
Citizenship. If you were an American Indian, the Supreme Court held more than 100 years ago that American Indians were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Oh, wow.
All right. Not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Well, she just said not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. What the brother said prior to that, not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. What the other brother said is one of authority, one of jurisdiction. Are you a competent court to even hear me? And what I also said, what the brother said prior to her was, under the circumstances, it's this. State courts are the state courts in the state has always been the key reason why the Congress try to slide us up in there too as well to protect us, because these states have militias behind them. And this is where they were just roaming around, tearing up shit. You see what I'm saying? And the federal government and the army and the military had to step in. It's where you had all these people stepping in. The girl had to get walked to the school and all these other situations going on. The military had to step in. And the Congress, I don't know if they did this intentionally, maybe on both sides, but some probably thought it was a good deed. The other ones knew that what it was going to turn into. That was going to turn into them raising a constituency of citizens that was going to be paying taxes and that could pay the taxes because we already was rich. We was already wealthy. You know why? Because we had acres and acres and acres and hundreds and thousands of acres of land with commodities, gold, silver, going way back. So if they can get us in, then they could be the superpower that they claim they are today for many reasons. We fight their military. We participate in their whole ingenuity, if I use the word ingenuity, of all the creations. We bring our intellectual property to the table. Should I keep going? Banks, oil, minerals. Should I keep going? And they know for a fact that we are the ones that actually created or established or inspired everything that they do today. I just showed yesterday that, I know it was born, but I just showed yesterday that everything they do today was already being done. And they modeled everything after it. And other countries was doing this shit. Across the world, they was modeling their whole system after indigenous people in America. Believe it. You see? And the key thing is, it says the Native Americans up here. But what came out of his mouth is American Indians. So I talk about all this sloppy talk that these people be doing. See what I'm saying? It's sloppy. But I just wanted to share that with you. Let's continue listening to her finish her conversation.
Native Americans were excluded not because of their ancestry, but because their nations were sovereign. This is why.
But we had people that were fighting in the 40s, 50s, and 60s to get us involved. But prior to that, The 1924 Indian Citizenship Act was already something in place. So what happened after that? Because in 1924, you still had the Wall Streets jumping off of what they call Wall Streets in all different areas of North America. We just say North America. Self-sustaining across the board. Loaning them money, right? Yeah. So how are you still later fighting for something when we was already supposed to have been put in 1924 Indian Citizenship Act? Common sense. You see, it don't make sense, but you got people that got this on them that has confused the whole situation. You're fighting for civil rights, but in 1924 we was already supposed to be citizens. So if we're citizens, we always supposed to get the rights that we was already bound to by coming in as citizens. Making sense? Yay, no? Yay, nay? Voting, everything that goes along with it. But see, the one thing people don't understand is Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, and the 14th Amendment, Section 2. It's still Indians not taxed. Everybody else was enumerated, numbered, taxed, levied, encumbered. Everything that they had belonged to the United States government. Everything except for us. So I try to show you about what taxation is. What is taxation? Let's come down and see what taxation. I'm gonna wear y'all out with this shit till y'all get it right. Now, it says if you become a U.S. citizen, what is the main thing you have to participate in? Paying taxes, voting, employment, etc. This obligation applies regardless of where you live in the world. Come on. We get past this. Now, it's core meaning. Core meaning. Indians not taxed equals Indians outside U.S. political jurisdiction. How are they able to write a act called the Indian Citizenship Act? How are they able to do that? Did they do that by treaty? Couldn't have been, because the treaty was 100 years ago. Well, 60. 1865, 66. Yeah, let's just round it off 60. How are they able to do that? Now, people say, well, you own this. This is business. You got to understand business. You got to understand who you are. Status is everything in the United States and in America. Status is everything. And they made it important enough to put it in their articles. Status. Naturalization Act. All the different things that they have. What do you think a federal census is about? Who are you? What do you have? Status. All right. Now, this phrase did not mean Indians who don't pay taxes yet. Indigenous persons who belong to sovereign indigenous nations who are not subject to U.S. taxing power and therefore not counted for representation. So you're not represented by any of you, not subject to the United States. If the United States cannot tax you, it cannot count you. Taxation, allegiance. Now this is 1787. Taxation, allegiance, allegiance, jurisdiction, jurisdiction, sovereignty. Governments, territories, trade systems, treaty relations, indigenous nations already had those set up. All right. Now, in this situation, this change was made not constitutionally, but was done politically and judicially through Dawes Act, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, and court-created doctrines, which is plenary power. All right? Now, this is the 14th Amendment. Even in the 14th Amendment, which they talk about freed slaves, you still have Indians not taxed. And in this guy's video, he said over 100 years ago. So if it was over 100 years ago from 2025, that is 1925. And if we see that was 1924. 60 years later from 1864. And the first Civil Rights Act was 1866 or 1868, one of them. So if that's the case, then where is the Supreme Court actually turning on it? Congress had no power over the indigenous nations. Congress was subject to the indigenous nations as trustee, as servant. Congress has the power of the purse, right? The executive branch, and I would throw up that video, but that's going to take me way off. Congress has the power of the purse. They distribute the funds. Executive branch spends it. I was just watching appropriations meeting today, and they pretty much were spelling it out. Congress has the power of the purse. They issue the funds. The executive branch spends it. Whose money are they spending? They say, well, it's the taxpayers' money. The United States citizens would not have no money if they didn't work, because they have no commodities, they have no land, they own nothing. They are servants, indentured servants at that. They cannot ever be indigenous to the land. They cannot ever own anything. All they have at best is adverse possession and squatters' rights. Do you understand? That is it. Now, the relationship then becomes, are you them? Now, if you want to be them, be them. Don't force that on me. Take that down the street to the store and try to see if you can sell that or buy that there. It's not happening right here. At worst, even if I was a descendant of a Huguenot, a Moor, or a Sephardim, guess what? I still have some form of initial creation of a treaty with the indigenous people. And guess what? I got more authority than these pale skins coming over here that somebody then gave all this power to, that is sitting around here telling our story. You see what I'm saying? That's why I got the white boy kryptonite. You see what I'm saying? They are useful. Now, this is what she's saying, right? Now, here is the key part to me. All of it was great. This is the key part here, all the way through to the end.
Birthright citizenship never automatically applied to Native Americans like it did to everyone else.
Take it frame by frame. Said did not automatically apply. So, for instance, it's like people want to argue. Indians participated in the United States. Well, they pledged allegiance, and they gave up their allegiance to the indigenous nation that they were a part of, to their community. They then became a part of the Union and then was subject to that. That means they had to give up their whole get down. They had to give up their own, not their customs in a way where they outright do that. They're not a part of that community anymore. That's it. You're out. She said automatically, though. The automatically part is these people doing this through Congress. Congress, they setting up these acts and doing all these different things and then letting it sit and marinate, right? You know, just like a declaration. You have these declarations where we're declaring something. That don't mean it actually to be true. It's just we're declaring something. There has to be some rebuttal because then that declaration can be affirmed if there's no response. But if nobody knows about it, if nobody's been given notice of that declaration, you pretty much just talking to yourself. And that declaration being made through some other means.
It took a separate act of Congress, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, to finally make all Native Americans citizens of the United States. This history is...
See what she said? She said, finally making. How are you making anything? See, this is what goes over people's head. They won't even respond. It would stop right there. You said made. How? How can Congress make anything? Congress are constituents. I mean, Congress are representatives of the people. That's it. On the other hand, Congress are trustees. That's how it was set up in the treaties. They're trustees. You see what I'm saying? The executive branch are what you would consider to be ambassadors of the United States dealing with the indigenous, right? You have these indigenous or these what they call Indian departments that they had set up. And you had people that can speak the language that would then be ambassadors as well within the United States and them. But did they give up their rights? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't know. But there had to be something where they can communicate with each other. And that's why they set up these Indian departments. So there was no made. There was no made because you're talking about 60 years later when so-called people were supposed to be free. And even during that time, there were treaties set up still, and they were indigenous. So if the if indigenous nations are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, that means you can't make us do a goddamn thing unless you declare war. All right. See, this is how you do it.
Exactly what the court cited in its ruling. This is what I want people to understand. Native American law is not a footnote in American law.
Got it. Native American law. What'd she say? American Indian law. She said Native American law. So she has established the fact there is an Indian law here.
It is often
and it's not a footnote.
The framework the entire system was built on.
Got it? So the whole framework of the United States was built on that.
The most consequential ruling on citizenship in a generation was decided on the history of tribal sovereignty.
You see what I'm saying? On citizenship was decided based on tribal sovereignty. You know what this is saying? I'm going to tell you in a second.
Save this. Follow for more on how Indian law shapes everything.
How Indian law shapes everything. It came out of her mouth. She said that. How Indian law shapes everything. And I showed you that Indian Supreme Court thing, right? Showed you that. But I ain't going to go back to that. I want to deal with it. You know what she just said right there? And this is just me. I'm going to look this way while I'm talking. You know what she said? She said that what they established in the Supreme Court, that the American Indians, the indigenous people in America, should have never ever been implemented into the United States as citizens because it was a violation of the Constitution and it was a violation of the treaties. So them saying American Indian, indigenous people here in America are not citizens, I would say, thank you. I don't know what y'all would say, but I will say, thank you. Somebody finally said it, and she said it. She pretty much just translated it for us. Understand? So, under the circumstances, look at it from the other side of the mirror. Understand what's actually being said. It's a good thing. Now, when we go back to this guy, this brother right here, he was popping. I don't know how much he's doing, what he's not doing. I don't care. To me, don't matter. But let's see what he was talking about, right? Let's go back to what he's saying. I'm going to go and stop this. And we're going to go to these codes and public laws and Indian Citizenship Act. Because I will say, my bad, I really just glossed over the Indian Citizenship Act. But what he said, we're going to see if we can find it. And after this, I'm not going to do nothing else. I'm pretty much close this off. We're going to focus on this. All right? I'm going to close this off. But this is very important. All right? Now, let's go back to it.
I go to court. The first thing I tell the judge is I'm the indigenous one. And the reason why I always say that, because I'm letting him know that I own the territory. I own the territory. The United States is Great Britain's trash. You belongs to Great Britain. You're Great Britain's trash. I own the fucking territory. Now that's big right there, because now you just challenging, now you flip the script and challenge his jurisdiction. That's why calling yourself indigenous is so important, because under the Indigenous Citizen Act of 1924, it clearly states that indigenous people don't need driver's license, tags, and registration to travel or drive on their own land. And if you...
All right, so let's go to the Indian Citizenship Act. Where'd it go? Here we go. Boom. Let's go over here. Here it is. Here's the special section commemorating the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. Let's see if this is it. Okay. So I think this centennial, I guess it's supposed to be 2020. I don't know. It said the centennial, so that's 100 years, right? So it says the centennial anniversary of the Indian Citizenship Act is a reminder for all of us that the systems in which we operate today were not built or for Native people. I'm going to put indigenous. Anytime I see Native, I'm going to put indigenous in it. Indigenous people, but rather to erase and eliminate us. For far too long, indigenous people had no say in the government that dictated nearly every aspect of our lives, and gaining citizenship required giving up tribal citizenship and assimilating into American culture. Now, what we're going to say is that's not American culture. Now we're saying who actually wrote this. So gaining citizenship required giving up tribal citizenship. Gaining United States citizenship, that was a gain. And giving up tribal citizenship was what? And assimilating into American culture. You got a problem with that sentence. This is only one piece of the long traumatic history of erasing indigenous identity. See, they go traumatic. Now we already know who wrote this. Because you're talking about traumatic. You know, I mean, was it really traumatic on what was happening at that time, based on the fact that all this stuff was done backdoor? All this stuff was done backdoor. So really, nobody really knew what was happening until it actually came on the doorstep. People was like, what's happening? Oh, you're now on the federal territory. You're now on the federal jurisdiction. Well, how? Is this your name on this census? Oh, that's how. So it says we have come a long way. All righty. Let's go. It has only been 100 years since Congress extended U.S. citizenship to Native people. Now, I can go with the extended. This is like extending the olive branch. Or this is like making an offer. Extended U.S. citizenship to Native people or indigenous people. But did it actually happen? No. This wasn't an extension. They did this under declaration and passed it through the judicial. Obviously, there was some people that pushed back on that, and they went there and they said, okay, majority won. They voted on it. Then it went to the Supreme Court, obviously. Or it didn't get to Supreme Court until there was somebody that came in and challenged it, and then they submitted it to the executive branch, and the president signed off on it. See, these imaginary borderlines, right? So it says, recognizing the original, so Congress extended U.S. citizenship to indigenous people, recognizing the original people of these lands as citizens of the United States. Recognizing the original people of these lands. So that is to be commended. Cool. I'll accept that. As citizens of the United States. Now, if you're citizens of the United States, you must pledge allegiance. It must be a meeting of the minds. There must be an amendment to or some addendum to the treaties. Something like that. People say, well, these treaties that was done in the 1860s, such and such and such and such. Well, no. If that was the case, then the Indian Citizenship Act should have been put in during that time. Not 60 years later. And then after that, still needs civil rights to be added to or addendum or amended to actually have these people come in and be able to function. Does that make sense? Just wanted to make sense to you. Whoever these people are to you. Because it makes me know, never mind. I already know what time it is. So look. Let's come down here. All right, so it says on June 2nd, 1924, President Calvin Coolidge signed the Indian Citizenship Act, which declared all non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States to be citizens. See? Imaginary lines. How is this possible? So if you was within that, so it said all non-citizen Indians. So you're telling me there were some citizen Indians. It said non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States to be citizens. So how would somebody know that is within federal jurisdiction or territorial jurisdiction, what they call federal jurisdiction of the under the United States? See what I'm saying? Now, what I'm going to look for, and I'm going to come into the actual act and read it, is I want to see how many Indians signed off on that. How many chiefs, how many heads of family said, yeah, we're good with that. I want to see if that it pops. All right. Because based on what I saw right here in this situation right here, that that where is it at? Where is it at? Where'd it go? Right here. So we got right here, if we're looking at it from this perspective, then we see that the Indian Citizenship Act was done unilaterally. Based on my research, it said this was unilateral citizenship, not bilateral. You know what? You have a unilateral contract and a bilateral contract. I mean, there's two signatures, both parties agreeing. All right. I know everybody talks about this Dawes Act. This is what they call forced allotment. So once you get the forced allotment with the Dawes Act, then what you have is subject to the jurisdiction of. And then, but it's done by proxy. And then you have these court-created doctrines under plenary power that they can actually raise to in court, but in the Supreme Court or in the lower courts too, say, oh, this is full faith and credit, Article 4. It's full faith and credit. Well, these things can be overturned because what you're going to need is you're going to need a signature by somebody competent enough to agree to this situation. Now, if this was done unilaterally, this is nothing but no better than a promissory note. Yeah. All right. So let's get back where we at. Okay. Let's get back here. So it says the act authorized the Secretary of Interior to issue certificates of citizenship to Native Americans. Certificates of citizenship. Is that how it goes today? Certificates of citizenship are issued? Is that how it go? I don't know. I don't know how the immigration process go when they are then naturalized. Because what I'm not hearing is naturalization. I'm not hearing naturalization being done. That's what I'm not hearing. Am I hearing something that I don't need to be hearing or reading? What is a certificate of citizenship? Who knows? Let's see. What is a certificate of citizenship? All right. A certificate of citizenship is an official document issued by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That is USCIS. Right? That proves someone acquired U.S. citizenship at birth abroad through a U.S. citizen parent or derived it automatically as a child when a parent naturalized before the child's 18th birthday. Somebody want to make better sense of this? Or did I make my point? Me, I made my point. I don't know if these so-called parents, we call it mommy and daddy, actually did this and became naturalized, took the United States citizenship test and everything. We go through the whole thing. What do you need to do to be a United States citizen? You have to do this, 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 and this. But right here, it seems like that didn't happen. It seemed like they just passed the act that said, yeah, if these people on what we consider to be federal territory is on that land, they are now United States citizens. Or they are to be United States citizens. All right. Hopefully this is making sense. We're trying to stay common in our mindset of how we're looking at this. No emotions at all. We just want to break down these words and how they're saying it. But what I'm not seeing yet is people actually doing this, taking a test, an aptitude test, language, studying language and everything. You know why? Because it didn't have to happen. There were already treaties in place. All right, so it says the Indian Citizenship Act was in part a response to recognize the thousands of Native Americans who served in the armed forces during the First World War. So, since you served in the First World War, then we're going to honor you with citizenship. But last time I checked, doesn't the United States fight with NATO countries? Doesn't United States fight with allies? Treaties, through treaties. Through these treaties, they actually, the indigenous people that dealt with things that had to deal with the security interests of the American continent, they come in to fight. You understand? They are bound to fight. If something's coming on their land or if something's taking place in other places that deals with the national security of America, yeah, these indigenous people are coming to fight. That's right. And they had their own platoons, their own battalions, or whatever you want to call it, their own companies, all the different things that they had that was already in place. People say, well, these were black companies and, you know, they was being racist and segregating the people and doing this and doing that and so on and so forth. No, not at all. You see what I'm saying? Look at it from a different place. These old companies were set up because, yeah, we want our own spots. Even the brothers in the Vietnam War was like, man, we had our own spots. We weren't trying to be with them. We want our own shit. We do things different. We're not trying to be amongst them, but they always want to make it seem in these movies that we want to be next to them, up under them. Like they got something they have to offer. Come on, y'all. Grow a spine. Hey. All right, so it says, however, despite the enactment of the law, citizenship enactment of the law. It's not a law, it's an act. Enactment. It was an act. It's not a law. Citizenship was not a guarantee for Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? See all this narrative stuff? Let me, where is it at? Now, they give all this stuff, all that. I just pulled it up. I ain't even know. Let's see what we got here. Can I click on this thing right here? Where is it at? See if I can click on this thing right here. Nope. Let's see if they got it up on here or are they hiding it? There it is. All right, so here we go. Here we go right here. Now, the brother has said that in this Indian Citizenship Act that there was something going on here. Let me go back here. I didn't got off into my little thing and lost my little code, but let me run it. Let me see.
Own a business, you don't have to pay taxes on your own land. Okay, that's an IOL convention.
Hold on. Let's report. Let's run it back. Like I said, I'm gonna spend my time on this. I'm not doing nothing.
I tell the judge is I'm the indigenous one. When
I can't rewind it or anything. This ain't like TikTok. This is Instagram. You can't rewind it or nothing.
Go to court. The first thing I tell the judge is I'm the indigenous one. And the reason why I always say that because I'm letting him know that I own the territory. I own the territory. The United States is Great Britain's trash. You belongs to Great Britain. You're Great Britain's trash. I own the fucking territory. Now that's big right there because now you just challenging. Now you flip the script and challenge his jurisdiction. That's why calling yourself indigenous is so important because under the Indigenous Citizen Act of 1924, it clearly states that indigenous people don't need driver's license, tags, and registration to travel or drive on their own land.
All right, there you go. All right, so let's see where he's at here. All right. So right here it says that that all non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States be and they are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. See? Declared. See? That's a declaration. This is what they're saying. Declared to be that. That's them doing that by themselves. We are. Now, it's saying, but we want to know if they was informed of this, provided that the granting of such citizenship shall not in any manner impair or otherwise affect the right of any Indian to tribal or other property. See what I'm saying? It's ambiguous. Is that it? Is that it? I mean, come on, man. Yeah, that's it. Boy, he turned it into a whole different thing. I thought I was reading it. I thought I read this Indian citizen. I guess I didn't. Never read this thing. Is this it? Got to be shitting me. That was the archives right there. That's National Archives. That's it. See what Wikipedia says. See what Wikipedia says. I'm looking through it before I read anything. I'm looking at it first. When you do no wasted. So it said being an active pair. Yeah, that's it. This is it right here. This is the text. That's it. Provided that the granting of such citizenship shall not in any manner impair or otherwise affect the right of any Indian to tribal or other property. All right. Let's move on. All right, brother. Gotta do a little bit better now. You did a whole other thing. You did your own interpretation on it. But since it is ambiguous, you can put your own little stamp on it. Let's see what next you got.
And if you own a business, you don't have to pay taxes on your own land. Okay, that's in IOL Convention 169.
All right, so it's actually ILO. All right, so here it is right here. This is ILO Convention 169. I'm going to leave it like that because it gave me what I wanted. It corrected it itself. He said IOL. Okay, so this is a convention adopted in 1989. It's a key international treaty that protects the right of indigenous and tribal peoples, emphasizing their right to self-determination. Emphasizing. All right? Emphasizing. So that means it's already been established, but they're saying, oh, y'all keep doing what you're doing. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to put it back on the books and put it on the table and make it, and what they call it in these meetings, make it a call to order and make it a part of the agenda, that we remind you that these indigenous people have rights and their right to self-determination and not be bothered, trespassed upon in any form of fashion. So you cannot hinder them in their travel, in their ways, whatever they're moving. Must not be hindered. On top of that, you've got to honor the treaties because this is an international issue here. This is an international treaty, key international treaty. You must inform them that, oops, whatever our people done before us, which created all these issues, we got to make it, put it on the board. This is who you are. But they have just quintupled down on the fact that they're not going to do that. They are not going to do that. And even in them attempting to do that, they're still throwing shade on it by saying Native American. You can't find Native American anywhere until the 80s. Not 18, in the 20th century. Native American together. All right. Now, so it says that their right to self-determination and participation in decisions affecting their lives and lands. Their lives and lands. It consists of 44 articles that outline minimum standards for the right of these communities. So let's open this up and let's see what this says right here. Here it is, right there. This is not 44 articles. Okay, boom. There you go. Is that it? There it is. All right, so what I'm going to do is, if you guys want to read it, I'll put it in the chat. Sharing is caring. That's what they tell me. Uh-oh. Boom. All right. I think that, where'd it go? Boom. Let's go here. I think there was, boom. Let's go here. Bam. All right. Here is another one. I don't know what they look like. I don't know everything. I only researched everything. It's the first time I'm hearing of it. But when the time comes, when it comes to me, I'm on it. All right, so where are we at here? All right, let's come back here. I'm trying to see if I can find a PDF. There we go. Nope, that's just one page. Yep, 44 articles. There it is. All right, here's a PDF. You guys copy and paste them just for me. In this case, I misplace them and archive them. Be useful. All right. So let's see what it says here. Okay, so this is Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention concerning Indigenous and Tribal Peoples in independent countries. Entry into force 5 September 91. Adoption Geneva. Okay, 76 ILC session. Up-to-date instrument, technical convention. This is the preamble. So in the preamble, what do we have here? All right, so this is Geneva. So this the international standards contained in the Indigenous and Tribal Populations Convention and recommendation. So this is having it in its 76th session and noting the international standards contained in the Indigenous and Tribal Populations Convention, 1957. Boom. We're going to copy and paste that. And we don't need this anymore. So we'll copy and paste that. Boom. So boom. Let's take it there. Okay. Is that it? Okay, here we go. This is June. Okay, here you go right here. It's the one. It's the PDF. You guys take those, copy, paste it, read through it, find something that I might overlook. All right. So now let's get to the deal on it. It also has in recalling the terms of the Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So all of these things, are tied to this going on in 1989. So that means they had to bring up all these things here to remind whoever that is in violation of these treaties that they need to get their shit together. Now, you got to know this is 1989. This is what? 2 years before Clinton get in office, and this is when Bush is in office, Bush Sr.'s in office, right? Which is during the time when this is his first and a half term, because you remember Reagan, he finished off Reagan's second term, and then he served 2 more terms after that. So technically, well, no, he served, just one, because Clinton came in and beat him because he was running again. So that was on his second. So he pretty much almost about to do 3 terms. And I think that was just, purposely they didn't do that, because really he would have been occupying 3 terms. So what do we have here? Okay. Okay, so it says Article 1, tribal peoples and independent countries, social, cultural, and economic conditions distinguish them from other sections of the national community. Peoples and independent countries, okay, self-identification as indigenous or tribal shall be regarded. The use of the term peoples in the convention shall not be construed as having any implications. Article 2, government shall have the responsibility for developing with participation of the peoples concerned, coordinated and systematic action to protect the rights of these peoples and to guarantee respect for their integrity. It's key right here, Article 2. Such action shall include measures for ensuring that members of these peoples benefit on an equal footing from the rights and opportunities which national laws and regulations grant to other members of the population. So circumventing this is putting certain people in the class of a United States citizen. And the United States citizens, based on the articles in the articles of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the other statutes and codes, you're not internationally protected in this sense, and you won't even be considered to be indigenous. So it says in C, assisting the members of the peoples concerned to eliminate socio-economic gaps and that may exist between indigenous and other members of the national community, right? Indigenous and other members of the national community. So that is indigenous, Indians, Americans, not taxed, and United States citizens, which is considered to be that national community. You see what I'm saying? You got 2 different entities going on here because it's saying members. So they're making a distinction. People, members. Okay. So Article 3, indigenous and tribal people shall enjoy the full measure of human rights and fundamental freedoms without hindrance or discrimination. Provision of the convention shall be applied without discrimination to male and female members of these people. Keyword members again. So you got members of the United States, the national community, not international, but the national community. And then you have members of these peoples. So these indigenous and tribal peoples. Distinction. All right. No form of force or coercion shall be used in violation of the human rights and fundamental freedoms of these peoples concerning, including the rights contained in this convention. No form. So this is what the brother's talking about. No form. No form. No form. All right, we can stop right there. You guys got the link. All right, brother, you did good on that one. Next.
Indigenous people are exempt from taxation. You have to claim your indigenous, and no, you don't have to go get no status change and status this and status that. No, stand on business. Stand on business. Look at your birth certificate. If your birth certificate says black, Negro, colored, African American, mulatto, or nothing, you the fucking Indian. And you let them know that the state committed fraud against you by or reclassifying you from indigenous to black to Negro to African American. Now he got problems on his hand because under Public Law 90-284, the law clearly states that state court has zero jurisdiction on indigenous people.
All right, you heard that. So, where that? There we go. Okay, so American Congress Digital Archives Portal. So this is it right here. This is April 11th, 1968. Now, can anybody tell me what happened in 1968? Somebody put it in the chat. What happened in 1968? Come on. Time is waiting. Time is a wasting. 1968. What happened? What type of civil rights? What type of civil rights? I didn't say, you said civil rights movement. What type? What was it called? The actual term for it. What was it called? Come on now, your business. It's the Indian Civil Rights Act. Come on now. All right, so look, let's get back to it. All right, so it says right here, this is contributing institution, the Dirksen Congressional Center in Pekin, Illinois. United States Congress, Creative Commons, so on and so forth, right? Policy area, civil rights and liberties, minority issues, crime and law enforcement, Native Americans, housing and community development, United States Congress, 90th Congress, 1967-1969. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go right here, 1968, Indian Civil Rights Act, and we're going to see when that came into place. Nope, I don't want to do that one. Nope, don't want to do that one. Let's just go here real quick. Is that it? All right. Where is okay. So boom. They got a date here. Nope, they ain't got no date. Just says 1968. Here we go. So let's bring it in. So we got Public Law 90-284. What do we have right here? No. Where'd it go? There you go. So this is what? April 11, 1968, Public Law 90-284. This is Civil Rights Act of 1968. Damn. 1968, April 11, 1968. So this public law is actually the Indian Citizenship Act. I mean, the Indian Civil Rights Act. Apologies. So here we go. So this is what he's referring to. Public law right here, the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Now, let's talk. I'm going to say this real quick about public law. Public law is the law you want to find. That is the specific. It's all the same, but you also want to have this reference as well. You want to know what the public law is. You want to know what the stat is in 73, and you want to know the date. So this right here, man, this right here is important for you to know. Right, so let's click on it. So this is what you would consider to be a pretty good copy. And here it is right here. This is what you want to find. I need some water. All right, so right here, it says, Title I, interference with federally protected activities. Federally protected activities. That Chapter 13, Civil Rights, Title 18, United States Code is amended by inserting immediately at the end thereof the following new section to read as follows. 18 USC 245, federally protected activities. Where is that thing at? Hold on. I knew this thing would come in handy. I knew it would come in handy. I had this up yesterday. I pretty much showed this. Is that it? That it ain't in there. All right, let's get back to it. Now it says federally protected activity. Now this is Title 18 USC subsection 245. Nothing in this section shall be construed as indicating an intent on the part of Congress to prevent any state, any possession or commonwealth, or the District of Columbia from exercising jurisdiction over any offense over which it would have jurisdiction. In the absence of this section, nor shall anything in this section be construed as depriving state and local law enforcement authorities of responsibility for prosecuting acts that may be violations of this section and that are violations of state and local law. No prosecution of any offense described in this section shall be undertaken, so on and so forth. Nothing in this subsection, whoever, whether or not acting under color of law by force or threat of force, willfully injures, intimidates, or interferes with or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person because he is or has been, or in order to intimidate such person, or in any other person or any class of persons from voting or qualifying to vote, participating or enjoying any benefits, service, privileges, program, facility, applying for or enjoying employment or any prerequisite, serving or attending upon any court in connection with possible service as a grand or petite juror, participating in or enjoying the benefits of any program, or any person because of his race, color, religion, or national origin, because he or has been enrolling in or attending public school, participating, so on and so forth. All right. Well, hold on. What's going on with you, man? What's going on with you? Where'd it go? Oh, let me click on this thing again. Some of this stuff got knocked down. Okay. So that okay, here we go. You know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for anything that's dealing with Indian. But this is what he's referring to. Okay. Let's see where he's going with it. It doesn't necessarily say Indian in there, but I see where he's going with it because that's the actual title of it. As it says right here, it says long title, then it says nicknames. So this is nicknames, and all this runs behind that right there. All right, so here we go. All right, let me put this link in the chat. Let me put this in the chat right here. Boom, there you go. There you go. What's going on, Enoch? Yep, about to wrap this up. So I'm not seeing that. But in this, right? So in this, right? So let me open this in a new tab. Then let me bring this up right here. So this government, so this right here, this is Civil Rights Act right here. There you go. That's a better one right there. This is your GPO. Remember I was talking about the government printing office, right? GPO, right? If you see that on the bottom, it's authenticated, right? That's government printing office styles. Remember I mentioned government printing office styles manual. So there you go. I'm just throwing these in the chat. You guys take it out, do what you want with it. You know what's going on, is this? All right, so where we at here? Boom. So that is your Civil Rights Act. You also have it right here. There's the public law tool as well. So there we go. Let me show you guys something real quick. Well, no, there you go. My mind about to jump us somewhere else. All right, let's finish this.
Well, a lot of y'all got family members in jails through state court. Now, all these lower courts is fucking illegal. Every last one of them.
Watch your mouth, guy. That foul language.
If you don't believe me, look up 28 USC 3002 and go to section 2 and read what it says.
All right. Let's go to, there it is, 28 USC section 2. So it says the court, well, these are definitions. So it says court means any court created by the Congress of the United States, by the Congress, not by Congress. There's something to this, the, because certain times, I read a while back, and I was reading HJR 192, that is HJR 192, that in certain places said by Congress, and then it said by the Congress. So there's something to that. So it says by the Congress of the United States, excluding the United States Tax Court. All right. Now, you remember we come all the way down here to 14 and 15. And the United States, and by this definition in 28 USC, is a federal corporation. So that means that even this United States is created by Congress. Uh-oh, did I say that? Nah, my bad. I didn't mean to say that. Let's see what he got to say.
These courts have to have delegation of authority to do anything, which means that before they open that court case, they got to contact Congress. Now, you ask them for the delegation of authority. This is why we turning around and suing all these judges for these bullshit. Because the shit that they did, they didn't have no rights doing. Every last motherfucking thing they did here is fraud.
All right. Now, when I come over here to this, I've actually looked up this portion of, I just clicked on this 31 USC 3718. All right, so I just clicked on it real quick, just see what it says. It says 31 USC 3718. Now, I pulled this up before, but it says contracts for collection services. So it says under conditions, the head of an executive, judicial, or legislative agency considers appropriate, the head of the agency may enter into a contract with a person for collection service to recover indebtedness owed or to locate or recover assets of the United States government. And we're going to talk about this. See, if he would have added this to what he was doing, this would have been fire. Because the bottom line is what is going on. This is connected through the legislative. The definition, Title 28, 3002 is dealing with the legislative and what the creation has, what the legislature, what the legislative department created. So he's pretty much there. This is what they created. They created an executive, they created a judicial, and a legislative agency, legislative agencies. These things have been done through Congress. This is why you have these enforcements. You can actually, they actually have adjudication administrative so-called commissioners for a parking ticket. Did you know you can go to court for parking tickets? They have one there. They have these commissioners, these what they call pro temps in California. They have commissioners, pro temps. You know what I'm saying? That come in there. Most of them people still got bar licenses. They're attorneys, so-called in training. So if you read this correctly, this is an absolute violation of Title 42 USC 1994. This is also in violation of Title 42 USC 1983. It's also in violation of Title 18 USC, as we read in these other ones. It's a violation. It's 1994. It says peonage abolished. Nobody could be held into a state of peonage for collection of any debt, voluntary or involuntary. And if we looked at that ILO, it says in the other ones that we just pulled up that basically based on indigenous people and their rights to self-determination, privacy, and self-governance, that they can't trespass on none of that at all. Hinder, right? Coerce, or otherwise. Now, let's continue reading this part. It said the head of an agency may not enter into a contract until under the preceding sentence to locate or recover assets of the United States held by a state government or financial institution, unless that agency has established procedures approved by the Secretary of the Treasury to identify and recover such assets. Internal Revenue Service. And then you have this executive, judicial, or legislative, because everything is to be returned back to the United States government. But how about you flip that upside down and say, okay, well, I'm going to beat you to the punch. because we know all obligations are of the United States government, and the United States government through the Treasury lends, transfers credits, I will say, per se, that is to be returned back to the principal. And that principal is the United States government. And I remember I showed you the whole line. You got the people, you got the states, and you got the United States. But nevertheless, just wanted to show you guys that. See, it works. I didn't show you everything because it had names on it, but there you go. The circumstances. Going to leave it right there. Again, what I'm going to do is we don't need to do too much more after that. I like to keep it there on a simple thing. If I do anything else, it's going to be way outside of the spectrum. I don't want to keep it right there. I just put a lot of information on you guys. Again, these good videos coming up, and yeah. And like I said, and none of your business, you be sending me stuff, and keep sending it too, because that's helping the algorithm as well. Get me this. Yeah, you didn't hear me on purpose. I didn't want to be heard. I was just showing and tell. Show and tell. I did that on purpose, yeah. Because I'm deleting it. I just want you guys to see that. I'm gonna delete it later. Yeah, y'all just get a good look at it. Outside of that, yeah, just keep sending those videos. You guys, those streams, those links, because the things that I want to come through is, it's just flowing through. I ain't got to go, keep scrolling until I get where I need to be. So appreciate you guys on that. I am going to put the link in the chat. Anybody got any questions? Yeah. We're going to just cut it right there. Give me an opportunity to, hold on, let me, oh yeah, all day, that's what time it is. I'm gonna put the thing in the pin the stream to the chat, and then, yeah. Yeah. So let's throw the music on, and I'll be watching the chat, see what's happening. Get me some water too. I'm kind of parched. All right, y'all. Well, shit, everybody coming up here. I heard that. Yep, for sure. All right, y'all. Everybody be cool. Yep. It's a short one. Hey, I was on time. And finished in the time that I finished. Can't beat that. Hold on. I gotta check the records. Let me see. I'm gonna go back to my video. Because I'm watching. Hold on. Let me go back to mine. Let me see. When did I stop? Hold on. Man. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And I was an hour 40 on this. I was an hour 40 on the streams. Man, I did that. In an hour. I told you I could get it done. Get my function right, I get it done. Nevertheless, I know y'all be like, he really be tripping off time. Hey, I'm a perfectionist, goddammit. Told you, ain't nothing but winning over here. We don't lose. Anyway, all right, y'all, in a minute. Yeah, he about to pop up here. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna do one even better. Where'd it go? Nah, it's cool. I was gonna delete it out the chat, but nah, he good. All right, y'all. On the next one. Hey, when the song is over, it's over. You already know.
We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for
Let's go. All of your assets, you have to protect it. Just set your trust up, come get your status corrected. Yeah, you know we moving more than mountains. Fuck your school, fuck your voting system, fuck your water fountains. Melanin, I know you heard of me. You can never murder me. I want that gold you owe me now and gold from 1933. I want y'all to stand on all them treaties that you sold to me. Cause we was already here, y'all came on a boat to me. And know this God-given land we all holding fee. Simple, absolute gratitude, your majesty. I shine not in my straw man, you not controlling me. Certified, signed, sealed, stamped by the notary. Don't try to lie to my face like you ain't just a colonist who tricked us with contracts, but you fail to acknowledge it. And history books of fertilizer, one big pile of shit. Acting like you freed us from slavery, but ain't abolished it. The plantation just got renovated. Driver's license and passports are the new slave papers. How they foreclosing on the ones they gave acres. We allowed them entry, even trusted them as neighbors. They took everything from us and made us ask for favors, and posed as the only helping hand that's there to save us. Boycott, don't try to keep up with the fad, cause the money that we save, the properties that we rehab. And I believe with the tears don't fall from my eyes, cause they see our what, but they don't see our why. You was born in June, but I only seen July. Influenced by bad spirits like a DUI. You ain't do no estate planning, but you think you fly. Now we gon' need 3 fish fries to see you die. We the revolt, boy, don't play with me. The time is now, this royalty over slavery. Damn. I gotta... I'm the coach, quotes coded in oak with a ghost loaded focus. Chrome in the coat, king with the cloak, smoking that hocus pocus. Infinite styles, pivot and pile up the mileage. I'm wild with the science. You see the line on my avatar, iron jaw pride. I to devour the silence. Why you niggas steady lying? Got me laughing hard, satire and fraud. I fire the squad. Wise get crossed when I'm sparring with all the guards. Author of art, carving a mark in the bark of the market at large. Target the sharks, heart of a Spartan. I sharpen the margin with bars. You rather bargain and dodge. I'd rather you come get your taxes done. Black suit, back room, facts in a stack. I'm relaxing the maximum. Get out of the pocket, the profit of rocket. Then I just might tax you punks. Bracket your funds, I'm stacking in chunks. Reacting to acid, you're begging a punch. Sometimes my community hard-headed, scarred, dreading the lessons. I chart head and start spreading the message, embedded in pressure. Sovereign living, I'm private with it. No corporate percentage. Discharging debt with a pen stroke. You still don't notice the vision. I've been telling y'all you don't want to debate me. Weighty and ready. Great with machetes, linguistically shredding the petty. Grab these 15 acres. Landscape major, plan made paper. Land patent stamped and sacred since my campaign greater. I ain't talking about Ice-T when I say that I can show you law and order. Court recorder, I sort the torture, contort the border. I eat the case, beat the state, leave a trace in a raw supporter. Briefcase aura, got your baby mama thinking that I'm a lawyer. Seminole Indian sentiment, militant on sovereign soil. Private enrollment, tribal component. I'm the boss who you trying to employ it.
Gosh, baby, infinite.